come back and, but it is a tune of almost $2,200, so we're gonna talk about that some more. And that's all I have under my report, unless somebody has some questions.
What's the, because I'm sure the public's gonna come out and ask a lot, would you tell the name of the company trying to buy the property and start up between Ballard and Covert?
Scott, you have the name?
I don't know the company, I know the firm that is actually.
The store?
Sorry,
The store or the firm?
All I know is the engineering firm, so
it's an
Scott.
engineering firm that's been contacting us, so.
Yeah.
We've already bought the corner of it, Ballard and M88.
Not that I'm aware of.
And I only ask, because the rumor right now is it's $1.10.
I've heard
I'm
they
sure
already
the public
bought
are
it.
gonna wanna know.
It's an engineering firm out of Grand Rapids, it's, I got their card, but I can't tell you the
It's pretty low key, they won't even tell us,
Right.
actually, Larry's tried, I tried, Rachel's tried, well,
I'm just going off the rumors that I've heard, and again, I don't, I'm not gonna ask.
So that's why they've gotta go through our channels before. we make
Ideally,
that
let's not
decision.
make more. I said ideally, let's not make more.
no, to answer your question, they were given the proper permits that they thought they didn't have to do, or tried not to do, so they have them now, and until I get those to see what they are and what the, we don't really know what it is.
Okay.
Anything else? Need a motion to pay the bills, $25,178.44.
I'll make that.
Motion by Melissa, support by Chapman. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Oh, that's right, sorry about that. Melissa?
Yes.
Leila?
Here.
Bill?
Yes.
Bill? Todd? Yes. Rob?
Yes.
Larry, yes. Okay. New business. We didn't need to put this next item under action because from my understanding is that was made a year ago, in February, if I remember correctly, that we were going to adopt the schedule of water rates for the next 20 years based on the study for water and sewer. So all we're doing is in this next building for water, it's being raised from $24.48 to $24.74. It's a, what's it, 26 cents. 26 cents.
1% every year.
1%, so. Yeah.
The only question I would have with that, doing the new business, I know there's a time coming for the sewer to increase, but I don't know what that is, Sam. Have you looked at that recently? Or?
There's not gonna be a sewer increase rate until we do a project to get out of our, because we have our funds all situated up to do construction funds for replacements, and we've done nothing on it yet, so at that point, remember, as of 2015, we have to justify every penny we bring in for water and sewer, and laws that come into effect this year. So you have to have a sewer, or water and a wastewater study.
Okay, under B, credits to water accounts. Obviously, with asking the taxpayers to run their water, to keep things from freezing, it's gonna require that, probably they're gonna go over their minimum water use, and what are we gonna do?
I run mine long before the water requests come out, and I figure it's cheaper to me to run it than it is to be out of water or to.
Yeah, I think I only paid $3 more on my.
We're only talking $5 at the most to each customer. I mean, and it costs us more than that for our time to.
Exactly. Last year we.
The inconvenience is worth it.
Yeah, it's just.
Last year we credited $8.67, $7.
I've been doing it for 20, 30 years, it hasn't been that big of a deal from the summer around.
I don't think it's worth the clerical cost for us to
I agree.
I agree with
do
that.
it. You know, I think anybody would agree, you know, it's worth $2-3 to to not freeze your water out.
Would you look at anybody who has somebody hooked to them? Because now they're paying double the work.
Yeah,
That's a different story in that
That's-
situation. And
it probably isn't gonna amount to much.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I would abstain from the vote because I have somebody hooked to me,
At
but I
this
think.
point, I got one meter that's supplying 3 homes, honest to God.
And
I
that
think
one
that
person's
gentleman,
paying for 3
I
days
think
of water.
that gentleman and the other two should just pay a flat rate and forget about it at that point. $24, you're gonna pay that per quarter no matter what. And forget about the rest. We'll get their meters back in as soon as the frost comes out of the ground and get them back on a regular reading.
Can you
at
come
that
up with a list of people that are supplying other people to do
We
that?
have all that.
Okay. I mean, that,
That's fine with me, I don't think
Yeah,
the
I
solar should be
would
charging
say about
anybody
that,
anything.
And Rachel and me will sit down and go over all that.
She's gotta go through and calculate every one of them for discount, it's just.
We're gonna increase that on them people, that's all.
So last year we gave a credit, but this year we're deciding we may not, so we're just gonna tell the people,
Just
sorry.
back to the flat rate.
Well, I'm just thinking last year we gave the people a credit, but this year we're not, so how, what's the, sorry, it was colder this year, or I mean, what do we?
We're basing it on.
Yeah, I mean, last year we did it, I remember watching everybody looking at their pencils and figuring out how big the string was gonna be. So, you know, I mean, it was a long out ordeal, and this year I can see people might be having a canary, so.
My feeling is we just charge flat rate, or their normal use in years where we haven't had to do it, something like that. But I don't see where it pays to punish them for something that none of us have any control over.
No, I know, I'm hearing you, I just wanna have an answer when people go, how come we did it last year but not this year?
I truthfully think last year what we got, can I speak?
Yeah.
Last year what we got ourselves into is we give a refund of, what was it, Rachel, $8.33. We have residents that go to Florida, they leave their heat on in their house, they shut the valve off in the basement. Them residents got the $8.33 discount. They should have never got it. So if you're gonna do anything here, I highly suggest go to a flat rate charge. We'll read them in April, like we always do. We'll readjust, poor old Rachel's gonna have to readjust every number on meters to read the exact same, so that bill comes out $24. It's gonna be a ton of work on her end, but she's like me, she's an hourly employee. I don't say it's-
I don't like that
He
answer.
knows the boss.
You paid me to go out
Let's
for
pay about the
everybody's
job.
water.
You know, the question I would ask on that is, when you put into the water that is serviced and put out through, we can put a dollar amount to every gallon that goes into that system. We truly, how many thousands of dollars are we gonna lose by not charging? I'm not against not charging, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying, I'm just saying, last year, I wanna say there was $3,000-4,000 that we could have figured went through systems that we didn't get paid for. Or more.
I think it was about 68.
How about our pump tanks that have to pump that water out of there?
So now-
6,664. Sorry.
I get a double sword there.
I don't know, I just,
It sounds like we need more data before we make a decision.
I hate to tell people we're not gonna reimburse it, but then again, I understand too, that the workload that goes into the office, with the hours there, well, yes, it's an hourly employee. Maybe,
No, it
are we
is.
not, or we,
Your meters were read in October, so you're into your 6 month slow season of water. Nobody's out watering their lawns. They're just using
Yeah,
water for
that
their
works.
residential home.
I mean, I'm not against just a flat rate, don't get me wrong, guys,
I think that solves the problem.
Why can't you just leave it like it is and not do nothing about it?
Like I said, it's work on her and work on me, because that's what you guys pay us for. I hate to be rude to her or me, but
Just leave it go at the rate, whatever the
Yeah.
meter is, and then if you wanna compensate the people that are providing 3 homes, then you can do that without doing everybody.
well, water bills aren't going out tomorrow, right? There'll be a while, we've got a little while we can discuss and maybe get more numbers put together if that's what we need for me.
Well, you're only talking a few dollars on the meter for each of us.
Yeah.
But then you're talking a lot of dollars when you've gotta pay her to calculate every single one of these so that it comes out right in the books and to compensate somebody $3 or $4, you know? It just doesn't make sense. Just
It doesn't.
Bite the bullet.
fill it off the meter, and the ones that are providing multiple homes off of their meter, compensate them alone.
Are you making a motion on that?
Yeah. If that's what you want.
No.
That's what's required.
Well, it's under new business, not under action.
No, there you go.
So we can delay that decision with more information next month.
That's a good idea.
All
I
right.
like that idea.
I like that idea too.
What, okay, now I'm good with it. Great.
C, event permits, seasonal unemployment. That's
Um,
yours.
Well, what I got, and it's more just discussion, so I know I'm not misunderstanding. I attended the DDA meeting, and I guess, I don't even want to say I was concerned, but I was, didn't understand when it comes to the event permit process when the chamber scheduled the event on the skating rink. And that was, Chris Corbett in the meeting said they don't need an event permit because it was less than 200 people. I was under the impression, I think, that any event on public property needs to go through the office as an event permit. Am I misunderstanding that? Am I not understanding what we originally did? There is a special event permit that was more than 200 people.
And you
It's
get
more of a-
insurance.
And well,
That was a 200 was the
becomes-
threshold to get your
it is-
So if
insurance.
I wanna talk 10 of my friends to the park and play, do I need to write, get a note?
Only if only, I guess, to explain that, I'm not probably the best one to do it, but no, I don't think in that case, only when you raise the liability to the village and it's a public function. You and your friends aren't a
Sounds like a
public function.
procedural
It's
issue.
communication, is really what it is. So, because like the village of Central Lake and the DDA had no idea that the chamber was doing anything until after they seen it on Facebook and said, well, so how are we all supposed to communicate and work together when we're not getting communication? So what I think is that anytime that we're having an event on public property, whether it be the DDA, Thurston Park, the four corners of town, an event permit needs to be filled out.
Is that on public property?
Yes, the DDA, the skating rink is right, it just
But if
needs
there's a
from Chris
permit, does
Corbett.
that say that, okay, I'm gonna take 20 of my friends and I'm gonna go have a afternoon of, I'm gonna take 20 kids and go down to the park and do clay projects all afternoon. Now, do I need to call Rachel and say, I'm having an event? You know, I think there needs to be some clarification there as to
I've got the
who and
ordinance,
what and
when
how
I
and.
find it here just to see, but I mean, I guess I'm not gonna say yes or no on that, but I don't, I just think that the communication is more what that purpose of that event permit was for, along with the liability aspects to the village of things not getting done. And I guess I wanna be clear, as you, when is it needed, when is it not?
There, I do events all the time, and my insurance carrier is no different than yours. You're gonna have activities all the time, and people come use the park, and, which that's what you're kind of doing, at least in the land funding, to use it as a park. There's no additional insurance, no added liability. The only thing is if you had a large gathering, that's the only thing that they would like to know about, that's all. To make sure that they approve it. In other words, that little shooting thing, as long as it's no checking and everything else, because my insurance also covers it, and my insurance covers it. How's that?
And I understand that when it comes to what we would call the special permit originally.
Yeah.
But I think just the permit in itself, it was designed, purposed for communication, so all parties involved knew what was going on, and it went through
Yeah, no,
the, I guess that's.
yeah, what I did is I talked to Melissa about it. It had nothing to do with the DDA, because the DDA just did the project, they don't actually run the event. Just to be clear.
Well, it sounds like it's definitely something that maybe us three on the communications committee can look at that, because, I mean, it's clearly a communication problem. You know, let's look at it, figure it out.
Well, I guess more,
I mean,
what I would
what's
ask is it a communication problem, or are we just not following the?
Well, are we asking, I mean, is everybody in
Ordinance.
town doing an event permit? Is the Masons doing one on their pancake day? Is the chicken guys doing one for the lines thing, so.
Yeah, if we're gonna do.
If we're gonna do it, then everybody should comply
Yeah.
and be informed about it.
Well, the thing is, if you're gonna do like music in Bachman's or something like that, the guy comes up and plays music for the town, or we put a movie on or something like that, we gotta pull a damn thing for every time we do that? I don't believe so. So I think what it is, until you know, I think I would check with the, check with your insurance carrier.
Well, in here, I guess if you look at the Village of Central Lake ordinance number 1 of 2014, that's where it's gonna spell it out. I don't need to go through and read the whole thing, of course, like you said, there's maybe just look at it.
Probably just tweak it a little bit and clear it up, so everybody's on the same page.
That was my question on it, is, and then, I'm sorry.
No, then you can move on to seasonal unemployment.
All right, just wanted to make sure, part of this came up in twofold. One being that we need to make sure, and not to point at Lyle, but he's the one that this is going to affect right now. We need to make sure that he understands, and we do, that he cannot, under no circumstances, work more than 26 weeks, or we lose our unemployment exempt and seasonal employee status. We also have an opportunity that we could look further into seasonal and unemployment statuses for another position that has been talked about that may further us later when it comes to common area caretaking. And talking with Mike at the unemployment place there today, again, it's all in the language and how we word it and what we have them do, and then submit to the state. So. And that being, I guess where I'm looking at that is, Larry, you've talked about hiring a person to take care of the flower beds in town at 20 hours a week, roughly $20 an hour. When I throw the numbers together there and look at that, we nearly could pay a seasonal employee at 35 hours a week to do multiple things along with that at a unemployment exempt status. And I pulled the numbers from when we had our last part-time employee, and pulling them back at 22.2, roughly 22 to 24 weeks, collected less than $10,000, and we paid enough, and that's with the $2,747 unemployment cost. So we roughly could get at a part-time employee 22 to 24 weeks at roughly 35 hours a week for that money. And so I guess I just think that maybe we should look at the bigger picture than just taking care of flowers for that same amount of money, if that's the route we decide to go. I think we could get more out of a person, but again, it's very defined in how we do this. We cannot say that they are 20 hours working on flowers and then they're gonna go for 15 hours and work with their DPW. That then the state would throw us out of the program and say, no, that doesn't work because your DPW is not a part-time DPW. You have to, by job definition, is how you would clarify. We could say that they're gonna take care of flowers for X amount until they're done, and then they're gonna go mow our drain field. That is then, as long as they do mow the drain field, but that would take a load off of Sam's guys, but it is defined in a job description, and that would allow us to do that. So there's different options, I think, to look at before we just go to that, but I also think time's ticking away to get somebody moving, whether it be the DDA that does it, we do it, combined, however, time's ticking away. We're in the March of flowers are going to be popping up next month. So I think that's something that really needs to
So,
be something
make
put
a
together.
decision by the next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
I
It's
think
not an action item right now.
no, it's not an, I'm just putting it out there for discussion so people can think about it and think, what do we really want to do? And let's open these lines of communication between us and the council and what we want to accomplish. So then we can decide what we want to put in place to accomplish that.
Cool. Anybody else have any comments with respect to that? Action items. The first one is changes the chapter 16, which is the planning commission ordinance, and it amends that ordinance to allow the planning commission and DDA to be combined. The primary question out there that doesn't seem to be answered is why are we doing this, combining both of them? Because when I took this job in December, the lack of communication between all parties involved seemed to be the greatest problem that we had in this village, between what was going on the chamber board, on the DDA board, and to some degree, planning commission. That being the case, I went back to the Central Lake Downtown Development Plan, and it says the DDA, as requested by the village council, will work with the community to improve its downtown. This will be an open, community engaged process that will have its premise a focus on the needs of the entire Central Lake community. That puts, by combining them, puts most affected parties in one room at one time to work through whatever issues there are out there. And that's primarily why I'm proposing that this be these three groups, Chamber, Planning Commission, and DDA, have representations within this body. And somehow they're gonna have to work through their communication issues and put the community, the entire community, as it says right here, focus on the needs of the entire Central Lake community. And what better way to do that is to have 7 people dedicated to that function. I don't agree that the business community will lose its voice. I don't see how that's gonna happen. There's gonna be at least 3 or 4 people that I will recommend if and when we approve these 2 ordinances that have been a part of the DDA, have an interest in the business community, and I just don't see how they're gonna lose their voice. I plan on attending those meetings, not as a member of that council. And the businesses, all they have to do is say, how is this gonna affect the business? And we've got an issue that's trying to get into town right now that the Planning Commission and DDA, I couldn't think of a better thing to happen, is to have those 2 bodies looking at whatever this company is trying to do in our residential area, and then have them both combined. I thought it took care of what I considered a communication breakdown, and a lot of animosity between people who lived in this community, out of this community, and we're trying to do good for the community, and I think everybody has that in mind, is to do good for the community. I don't see where our goals are any different than that.
Larry, you said 7 on your statement just moments ago, but on page 2 it says 5.
I know, I'm gonna recommend that be changed to 7. That was ordinance number 2, I'm dealing with ordinance number 1. And basically, the council has to make a decision, do we want to combine the Planning Commission and the DDA into one? I'm giving you my reasons for it. I think everything can be solved by communication. And I think everybody sitting in one room working on all of the problems as opposed to just a certain part of the problem just makes sense to me. If they can't do it, then we've got a body that's doing no good. There aren't very many communities our size that even have a DDA. So to say that there aren't many out there that have combined them, there's more of them out there that don't have either one, a planning commission or a DDA, at least active. 5 years ago, we'd be sitting in this room, we'd have Sam, Scott, and Joe and all the other chairs would be empty. And it was like that in here for years. I think it's great that everybody's here, interested in trying to improve. And I just don't get it. Why there's such resistance to coming together with other members of the community that all want to improve it. I just don't see how that can hurt us. So the council has to make a decision, as far as I'm concerned, to amend chapter 16.
You've been in this business for a long time, Larry, and so have I. I've been here for 20 years. And I'm more inclined to agree with you that we do need to work together, and we do more if we combine. And you're a businessman, I'm not. But dadgummit all, I've been on this council for as long as anybody, and I know what goes on in this council, and I know what goes on in this community. And I'd like to see it solved by working together. And I'm all for combining.
I'll agree with you that there's a communication breakdown, and I'll agree that everybody needs to work together. And I'll also agree that I think most everybody has the best interest of the village at heart. I'm not sure. Initially, as I've said before, this has been discussed 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, it was looked at, and I thought it was a great idea, but the more I've talked, reading from Neela, that they don't have any good information to tell us yes or no, listening to the DDA and the members of that are asking them not combine. Other people in the community I've seen and heard from that they don't think it's a good idea. I think I've swayed to the side that I'm not sure this is a good idea at this time. I think some people feel that they're being railroaded or taken out of an equation to solve a problem that nobody sees how it's gonna solve. And if, what I go back to is when I sat in that DDA meeting and I heard the Chamber of Commerce, can't talk with this person, the Chamber of Commerce isn't getting this information isn't coming back from the Chamber to us. Tom Kenyon made a very vocal point that they were relaying information out by somebody who was put on the DDA as a chamber spokesman, but none of that information was coming back to them. And I don't see how combining a planning commission and a DDA solves an issue between the chamber and a DDA. I don't understand it. I'm not against doing it as much as I don't understand how it's gonna work fully.
That's not combining the chamber and the DDA.
It's not, it's the planning commission and the DDA.
Yeah.
How does that solve the problem between the DDA and the chamber?
It doesn't necessarily do that, but does get
That's
more minds together working on their problems.
Okay.
In the same room,
Yes.
instead of behind
I
doors.
mean, I think, I also agree that there's some of the residential restrictions may pose something to some people who want to participate. Again, I was one also said it doesn't mean they can't participate, it just means they may not be able to sit on the board. So, I mean,
They don't have a vote, but they come to the
They-
meetings and
absolutely.
isn't that what that means?
Yes.
Is to engage with all of the community.
So, I just think, I don't know,
My recommendations for the committee is an effort to where all of those disparaging voices will be represented. And that's the best of that I think we can do as a council, is to put those people on the commission that have interest in business, in chamber, in the village.
I don't know, Rod, you said, what was it, last month or the month before, that you were really afraid that there was a lot of key people that you didn't think would make it. Is there a way that we can discuss who's gonna be?
Well, there's questions I have, is why doesn't Kelly from the Village of Mark County get a DDA? Why doesn't Bart Patton? I mean, these are smart people, these are business people.
Michelle
Why
Derby.
have they walked away? Is a DDA good? Does it need some restructuring? Do we need to go a different direction with it? Do we need a subcommittee off of either one? There's 7 names right here. I was on the planning commission for 5-6 years. We could hardly hold a meeting, and then we never had anything to talk about anyway. And people were coming and going. I mean, you were on it too.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, we sit down here for an hour and talk about people's personal lives. So, to combine them, I don't,
That's
The
what-
planning commission here 3 years ago, we worked our butts off to get a master plan so we could get a grant and then docs and up, do our village better. My own opinion, I know Larry, you say, well, we're not getting larger. Well, I think that discourages, I mean, I'm glad there's somebody else looking to come to our town, but Bel Air's not growing because of golf courses and ski resorts. We know that. Golf courses are closing down, ski resorts, who cares? They're growing because of a guy that makes beer. So there's more opportunity out there, but we need, I don't believe, my personal opinion, the planning commission combined with 7 members and only 2 of them can be out of the village. When 5 or 6 people don't live in the village, they own businesses, their voices are being heard, but they can't do a doggone thing about it. It's like, we gotta pay a gas price, but we can't make them quit raising the price. I don't know, I'd like to think where Corey says, give us 9 months. Maybe we need to restructure, maybe we need to put somebody else in the top, maybe we need to listen to the other voices from people that stepped down, why they stepped down. Why won't you come back? Will you come back if things change? You know, I mean, we're not out nothing if we give another 9 months.
But the same token, if we put the two together, and it apparently it doesn't work, or doesn't work like we thought, there's nothing to stop us from taking it apart. I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world if we do put them together and it don't work. We make a resolution to resolve this as quick as we did.
But wouldn't it be easier to build a let them see if we can make it work? If
We
we put it
already
together
had
and then we
it.
have
How
to.
long we had it now?
Right, well,
What's not worked with it though right now, besides this supposed communication issue? But beyond that, what's not working?
somebody's gotta step up to the plate and fix that problem.
Right,
Right off the bat.
I think that's the fix, put them together.
But you're not combining, where everybody's talking to this communication issue, it's the chamber and the DDA that has a communication issue. It's been clearly said by Lenny,
Okay.
if you're not combining them two, how are you
They can't
fixing?
be a member of the chamber, can't be on the DBA.
They can come to the meeting and voice their opinion just like everybody else, the same as what
Maybe it
we're
would
talking
help,
about. So I
maybe
don't-
it would help that if I read the names that I've collected to propose to appoint to that. And maybe through that, we might gain some insight.
Good point, yeah.
starting lineup?
Starting lineup,
There you go.
7
Let's
people,
go.
not 5, but 7. These are all people that I have received.
Any particular order?
Are these resident or non-resident? Sorry, no.
There's 2 non and 5 aren't.
All right.
And these are people who have all expressed an interest in being on the planning commission and or the DDA.
Wait, there's one more.
Number 1, this was the first inquiry or letter that I got from anybody when they heard that there was openings on the planning commission. Amy Drake, and these are in alphabetical order according to the first name. Amy Drake, Bill Truscott, Corey Hoeksema, Judy Kozlowski, Melissa Zelenak,
No,
Nancy Bridges, Tom Kenyon.
I'm already seated, Larry, I didn't send a letter.
Yeah, well, I included you in the 7 because you're there already.
Oh, I see, right, okay.
So if I didn't include you, then I'd only have 6.
Got it.
Let me go back on that, you got Amy Drake.
Amy Drake, Bill
Bill,
Truscott.
Corey,
The 2 non-residents are Tom Kenyon and Bill Truscott. Bill Truscott has been involved with the chamber and has expressed an interest and would come in with that as well as other things that he's involved with. He organized a couple of events for the Ducks Unlimited and
and Chris
whatever.
Corbett too.
Hey, you've got
And
Chris up
Corbett.
there, just handed you a paper.
Yeah, I know.
That's-
I only have 7 spots, so according to our ordinance. Brian Reese expressed an interest, but he's out of the village, and I only have 2. Then that can be Bill Truscott and Tom Kenyon. If either one of those were to back out, Brian would be my next choice.
I mean, you guys are still talking on the subject there, that kind of brings up one of the biggest issues, is that when you start combining that residential requirement, a person outside of town, the DDA has 2 people they can allow in, but there's so much more flexibility with the board for the people in town that, because of the DDA map and where the approved businesses are, that so many people that work in the business or own the business, be a part of the DDA board, and like we said, have a voice, get their voice heard. And so, yeah, that's just kind of brings up one of the major issues. Combined, you start losing people. Maybe not this year, a couple years, but 5, 10, 20 years down the road, it's other people and businesses. And if they live out of town, then they're out of,
That doesn't mean you can't attend the meetings and offer your opinions.
correct, and that's never been the issue.
We're not getting paid here for any of this. This is strictly all voluntary. So what's to prevent you, me, any of these people to go to the meeting, or anybody in the crowd to go into the meeting? There's nothing that stops you from doing that. You just don't have a vote when it comes to decision time.
Right.
But if I was on that board, I would listen to everybody. I try to listen to everybody that's in this room right now, whether they live in the village or don't live in the village.
Well, how would you address conflict of interest then, is what I think what he's trying to say.
How would it direct what conflict of interest?
I mean, if someone's on the board that's voting against the guy that's out of town,
They lose their ability, even as a business owner, to be involved with the voting.
see what I'm saying?
What would, I guess, I go back to that same question, to pose what you're just saying, they can come to the meetings and voice their opinions. What's stopping any of these people who aren't currently on the DDA from going to the meetings there and addressing or discussing their?
Jamie or Bill have never been to DDA meetings.
No.
Or planning meetings.
What I'm saying is what's stopping them, the same as what's stopping anybody from attending a joint planning and, I mean, we're all fighting the same thing here and the same semantics to it.
But it's, I think it's taking the individual identification away from each other and putting them together as one team is gonna overcome one of the stipulations. It's, oh, that belongs to me, I'm the DDA. Oh, no, that's my responsibility, I'm the planner.
And
Now
instead
you're
of coming together and working together.
They're both doing the same thing, they're just doing it at different times and in different ends of town. But if you can get them together, at least that's two of them, and then the chamber would have a vested interest in being there at these meetings. Or at least some of their members or some of theirs they would be heard too.
Truscott and Amy Drake and Bill Truscott were recommendations from the chamber.
And they're current members of the chamber.
I assume so.
And
I don't know that.
Melissa's a current.
There's a
So
lot.
Melissa is, Tom Kenyon's, I'm sure,
So
part of it.
you got representation
Seven would be.
in the chamber as well.
Well, I guess I asked for it in, like, there's a lot of members to the chamber, I understand. But in their official roles, how many are officials of the chamber right now? Can we know that?
I'm Device. Bill is a board member, and then on the advisory committee. Amy's the secretary. So you have three from the chamber that are on board. Corbett's really active.
Okay.
Isn't the underlying reason to have a DDA is so the downtown business owners who don't live in the village, who pay taxes to a village and have no say-so on how their tax dollars are spent, get some control about the area that they pay taxes in and finally have a vote on their tax dollars. That's a huge benefit to a DDA. Businesses come to an area with the DDA because they know when they get there, those taxes gained that they're gonna pay into that will be spent in their area, and they'll have a say-so on how they're spent in that DDA. So what you're saying now is you wanna take that, I agree with you, like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying there's lots of different opinions to look at. So
But the
they're
DDA
seeing it as you're
structure is
taking
still
that away from them again.
It's different.
Yes, it is.
Because those business owners can no longer have a vote on that
Ryan Graham said
board.
in January, there's still the same function.
But it's a different makeup. The business owners can no longer be on that board with a vote because they don't live within the area that's confined as a planning commission board.
Well,
That's the big discussion, the makeup of the board.
okay, the first DDA board was made up of Corey, his wife, his brother, his cousin, and the flower gal. What was there, 5? Is that true?
My wife and brother, and my wife's
Brother-in-law.
brother-in-law. There's 2 people related to me in Central Lake. There's gonna be that, it's gonna
What
happen.
I'm
you're
saying
gonna
is,
have-
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying
if
is
you
none of
want to
the,
do both,
a
we're all
lot of
related pretty
businesses weren't communicated to even join it then, okay? And then as they came on, the businesses just because of, here's it has nothing to do with Corey not doing a good job of putting this together and make a lot of effort, but there was some disorganization during this process for the last year. And so what happened is, people that were organized and tried to get something done, or ran into roadblocks, like Michelle Bachman, like Patton, like the auto guy, Martin, who else? Oh, Kelly, right? They were all discouraged of how it was and how some of the stuff was loaded towards some people who had had ideas, and they really weren't getting really part of the vote because it was loaded, the board was. So it's no different which way you weigh it. If somebody goes, okay, I want to make it all up of these type of people, all but these type of people. The bottom line was, a lot of good people left the board because of the disorganization. And what I'd rather have is 7 people that are committed, that work on it every month, rather than barely have enough people to have a meeting, committee meetings that weren't no reports, and have reports that were brought up at the meeting, not prior to the meeting, and minutes and new agendas to be approved. And so a lot of the meetings were going over stuff that we weren't prepared to make a decision on. So what I'm saying is that's, if you talk to all those people, the reason they left, right, was because of that mess that was going on. Not to say you couldn't fix it, not to say that it's not a good idea to have it go 9 months or even if it means put together, but I'd much rather, whatever it is, it's got to be that you have 7 committed people. And I think what it is with the list that you have there, you have a good committed group. And like I said, I'd rather just go and just give me a job to do, and I'm going to do it once in a while, rather than sit in those meetings and just spin my wheels. So, Scott, that's all I'm saying.
Just a comment, as a zoning administrator, one of the recent problems we have right now is we don't really have an active planning commission. I would ask you guys to consider looking at just the planning aspect of this. You know, why don't we keep planning members, and how do we keep them occupied, and how do we keep them with enough to do, and maybe take that into consideration when you're talking about either combining this board or not. It's kind of hard to, as a zoning administrator, to tell somebody, well, you have to present your idea to a planning commission that we don't truly even have at this point. So I would look back in the past and look at why we haven't been able to keep planning members, why they're not, like Rod said, why are they not entertained enough to where there's business to talk about or things to talk about. So as you look at what you're going to do with even just the planning commission itself, realize that we need to keep people on board, we need to keep them entertained and occupied so that they feel like they're doing something. So.
Well, we certainly spent a lot of money doing that master plan, and I don't know that any of us can look at it and say, are we doing with this master plan that you guys work so hard to do, are we doing it? So to say that there's nothing for the planning commission to do, especially if it joins with the DDA, I think there's going to be plenty of things for people to do. And the more I listen to everybody, lean one way, lean this way, and I think I'm leaning Larry's way. I think that joining is not a bad idea.
Especially since it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not an irreversible decision.
Right.
If this board clearly sees that it isn't working, it doesn't mean that we can't change it.
But are we further off?
What we're doing now isn't working apparently.
That's my contention. It didn't work. There's people that left the DDA, there's people that
I guess I would have to say that it has worked for the last year. The only one we've really worked on over the last year was developing downtown development TIF plan. And so the last 6 months of last year, that's exactly what we worked on. And we've done all our work on this first year. I don't know what's down there. We had a member of the chamber on board for communication, and we never had any communication from the chamber. If that's an issue that needs to be brought forth to the DDA, let us fix that problem. It was just the fix that was thrown upon us is you're going to do this, or we're gonna still have a problem. We've not had the opportunity to even try to communicate with the chamber at this point. We didn't realize there was an issue. You know, it's always in the back of the head, but we have nothing to communicate with them on. We're not, it's not like we're sitting there going, well, this development plan, we need to have your input on, because we didn't need the chamber's input on. The chamber's not a branch of government. The chamber's a special interest group.
How
I'm
business
gonna
men.
disagree with Corey on this because I was the person that represented the chamber and I made reports, Corey.
You made two
I made
reports.
reports.
Don't need your report.
I'm not gonna argue with you, Corey, but I'm not gonna agree with a generalized statement because I'm really at a limit here saying how bad the chamber and the DDA are not getting along. I mean, this negativity thing is just, it would be nice for it to end. And if combining it solves that, I'm for it.
Just one quick comment. It sounds like the DDA has internal problems, we'd all agree. The DDA has members who it sounds like are willing to fix those problems. Let the DDA fix themselves or give them a chance to. The problem has, and I agree, when I was on the council, everybody will agree, we couldn't get a planning commission. Taking the DDA to fill in the planning commission and locking them all in one room and saying you're gonna get along just doesn't sound like it works to me. What you need is like Scott said, you need to get a planning commission. And then if down the road, the DDA and the planning commission think it's a good idea to combine, it's a different conversation. But for now, I would say let the DDA fix their own problems. If they can, they seem willing to. You guys concentrate on getting 5 people on a planning commission. Planning commission only has to meet 4 times a year. If that's all you need to meet, that's it. I think there was a lot of confusion in the planning commission, like Missy said, there's probably things they should have been doing that we didn't. So maybe you need to look at that and develop a good planning commission. Because with this new business coming in, or trying to, planning commissions will be heavily involved in it.
They're outside of the DDA.
Yeah, they're still working on separate problems that should be in
I
mind.
guess that to me is another good reason to bring everybody together.
Absolutely.
That's,
Work on it together.
Right? I just don't see how you can say you're all gonna get together and get along because I decided.
Their wishes.
They're not going
They're
to.
asking for another 9 months.
You know?
What would 9 months give us? What's gonna happen
Restructure
in
the
9 months?
DDA, get members to come back, take 5 of these 7 applicants right here, build us a planning commission, let them communicate back and forth for 7, 8 months as 2 different teams, see how they get along with the chamber, and then if it doesn't work, blend them at a later date.
These applicants are for
They're planning commission applicants.
Yeah, they are.
Planning commission applicants, I express a strong interest in the board seat on the planning commission.
Well, and looking at some of them too, I mean, a lot of these, when they say planning commission, but they're also talking about event planning. Planning commission doesn't plan events.
No.
They're land use only, that's their design. And so, I mean, when you look at this, it makes you wonder about what they think that they are showing a letter of interest for.
Some of these sound like they want to be in the chamber.
And that's the way I read it.
That's the way I read them.
I'm sorry, that's the same thing I read.
Instead of running from one side of the boat this month and running the other side of the boat next month, let's just figure out which side of the boat we want to ride on and try it. And like I said, if we have to restructure the DDA and bring back a Bart Patton, which is a smart guy, and Kelly, and maybe not make it so big, make that a 7 or 8 person board with a 5-person planning commission, let them work together, see how they gel. You know, oil and water, we know don't mix, but maybe you can get a mix out of this. But just to dissolve it this quickly after it's just been formed not that long ago, I think we're just, it actually makes us look a little disorganized at the board too. Because we voted in this one time, we vote in for a DDA, we vote on monies to spend and to build, and then all of a sudden we're saying, we need to build a planning commission. Like a planning commission just 2 years ago, when we built that master plan. We worked hard on
I
it.
can agree with Rod, I mean, I definitely think the planning commission is getting those seats filled as a priority. However, I
DDA 's
certainly
not
agree
breaking
that the
their backs.
DDA needs
Because
to organize
they
that.
need to be fixed. I mean, everything needs to be fixed, everything has
Corey-
problems.
Corey, being the chair of the DDA, I mean, as you sit and listen to a lot of our discussion, I mean, are you open to working with somebody to better organize the DDA and help things flow a little better? I mean,
A
does
co-chair,
does that help
tri-chair.
anybody's decision to know that
Well, when
even he
Corey
and the
was
others
placed, Tom Kenyon at that time said that he would be putting his arm around Corey and help him, you know, get things going, but I don't know that that occurred. You know, God bless Tom, you know.
And with Larry
He's a
on the
busy
board
guy.
now, Larry's been around and knows what, maybe he can even help to organize it up a little better or give
Mr.
that
Corbett's
communication.
smart at that kind of, I mean, there's a lot of good brains out there. There's a lot of smart people that just dissolve an organization for,
We're not dissolving.
I guess I should use that word, but I'm sorry. Not dissolving it, but combining it.
And Brian Graham sat in here January's meeting and said, you'll have the same responsibility. Both DDA, you don't adjourn a meeting and start another meeting like we did for ZBA tonight and our regular meeting. You don't do that. Everybody's on the planning commission. So the issues are with that 7-person board. So, but it's up to the council. That's my solution to that. If you guys say no to one, then my only other recommendation after that then would be to split the monies that have been allocated for the combined board and give the planning commission $7,250 and the DDA $7,250.
I'd have a lot of questions on that, and not to,
I would force them to talk, to try to get the money spent in a combined way. That's the way I look at it.
I wouldn't disagree with that, and actually, as you say it like that, it kind of puts a glove on each one, and I'm not against it, but I think when it comes to the budgeting aspects of it, the DDA was budgeted $20,000 last year, they spent a little less than $8,000. That should have left just over $12,000 in their fund balance.
What's
So
the
now
planning
they-
commission?
So now we're holding them hostage by their funding to say, you're gonna do what I want, or I'm taking your money from you, you're budgeting? That sounds pretty bad to me. Pardon me?
What was it 8,000 spent on?
The open space uptown, little pocket park, some office stuff when they did their, your master plan, I keep going back, master plan, what's it down? Yeah, their development plan and all. They spent some money on on a skating rink, that they reimbursed Miss Corbett for. I believe they didn't get into the bench thing, we didn't do that one to them. Some flowers that were in downtown.
My question would be, Joe, what can the planning commission legally spend money on?
I don't.
There's a planning enabling act, I'd read it before I would assume they can spend money on anything.
They have jurisdiction over the whole village, but.
No, the council
They-
does, the council does. The
The
planning
council does.
commission
Well,
serves to the council. I don't think the planning commission has the right to spend money on projects.
I think their land use.
DDA does.
I mean,
I don't know.
There would be monies for master plan, planning changes.
Master plan costs money.
There would be, yeah,
I would have to go back to, again, I'm really concerned that we're holding them hostage and telling them you're gonna do what we want, or we're taking your funding.
Well, that's a whole other issue. We just gotta figure out, are we gonna do this number one or not? Or are we gonna talk for 2 more hours?
You got that, huh?
You know?
We could take.
I guess if I had a plan in front of me that, you know, D area was gonna reorganize in this way, they were gonna do step A, B, C, and D, I would say, okay, live for 6 more months, 9 months, show us what you can do. But I don't see that, and I was on that board, and I left it.
I think that's what this is.
That's not a restructure plan.
But
That's not a DDA get it together plan,
Oh,
that's
this is
the
their plan
the
for what they're going
development
to do,
plan.
okay. I see what you're saying.
You know, I mean, anybody can write up what they're going to do, I would like to see it executed.
Larry, why don't we take a vote on it? We're gonna sit here back and forth on this all evening.
there's ordinance number 1, amendment to chapter 16. To the Central Lake Village Code, it is hereby amended to read in its entirety as follows. Board, the authority shall be under the supervision and control of a board which pursuant to section 4.8 of Act 197 shall the Village of Central Lake Planning Commission that was created under the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, MCL 125.3801. Section 2, if any section, provision, or clause of this ordinance or application thereof to any person or circumstances is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect any remaining portion or application of this ordinance, which can be given effect without the invalid portion or application. The effective date of this ordinance shall become effective 20 days after its enactment. Okay, the heading of this is what I should have read first, but an ordinance to amend chapter 16, section 16.2 of the Village of Central Lake Code concerning the board of the Village of Central Lake Downtown Development Authority. That's required in order for ordinance 2 to take effect. Want a roll call vote?
You gotta have a motion and a second for it, or?
I would like to make that motion, let's get it on the board here. I'd like to make the motion that we combine them. So it would be a yes, right?
It would be a yes to do that.
I support.
So moved and supported. You can do a roll call if you like. Melissa?
Yes.
Leila?
Yes.
Joe?
No.
Bill?
No.
Bill?
Yes.
Rob?
No.
Rob?
No.
Larry, yes. 4-3. Pass. And make one thing perfectly clear. I think you can ask the other 6 people on this council, did I lobby for this? Did I go behind closed doors?
No.
No. Ordinance number 2, an ordinance to amend chapter 16, section 16.1.2 of the Village of Central Lake Code concerning membership on the Village Planning Commission. The Village of Central Lake ordains,
Come on, try
the
this.
Village Planning Commission shall consist of 7 members, the village president, 1 or more members of the village council, or any combination thereof, may be appointed to the Planning Commission as ex officio members with full voting rights on the Planning Commission, provided that these officials constitute no more than 1/3 of the total membership on the Planning Commission. Except as provided herein, an elected official or employee of the village, however, shall not be eligible to be a member of the Planning Commission. Members of the Planning Commission shall be qualified electors of the village, except 2 members may be individuals who are not qualified electors of the village. In addition, members of the Planning Commission shall be representative of the entire geography of the village to the extent practicable, and shall be representative of important segments of the village, such as the economic, governmental, educational, and social development of the village, in accordance with the major interests as they exist in the village, such agricultural, natural resources, recreation, education, public health, government, transportation, industry, and commerce. All members of the Planning Commission shall be appointed by the village president, subject to the approval by a majority vote of the entire village council. All appointed members of the village commission may be compensated at a rate to be determined by the village council. Except for any ex officio members, the term of each appointed member shall be 3 years or until his or her successor is appointed, except that the respective terms of approximately 1/3 of the non-ex officio members first appointed shall be for 1 year, and the respective term of approximately 1/3 of the non-ex officio members first appointed shall be for 2 years, so that as nearly as possible, the terms of 1/3 of the non-ex officio members of the Planning Commission will expire each year. If appointed to the Planning Commission, the term of the village president shall correspond to his or her term as village president, and the term of any member appointed for the village council shall expire with his or her term on the village council. I am not going to be a member of that. Melissa will be, so that only affects her. After written charges and a public hearing before the village council, a member of the Planning Commission, including any ex officio member, may be removed from office for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office by the village council. The failure of the Planning Commission member to disclose to the Planning Commission a potential conflict of interest as defined in Planning Commission bylaws shall constitute malfeasance in office. The failure of a Planning Commission member to regularly attend scheduled meetings of the Planning Commission shall constitute nonfeasance in office. The Planning Commission secretary shall report to the village council when the Planning Commission member has failed to attend 3 consecutive Planning Commission meetings. A vacancy on the planning commission occurring otherwise and through the expiration of a member's term shall be filled for the unexpired term in the same manner as the original appointment. If any section, provision, or clause of this ordinance or the application thereof